Number 1, humility. Number 2, honesty. Number 3, calmness. And number 4, respect. All 4 are important. If you miss out on any one of them, it'll become a roadblock. What do I mean by these 4? Number 1, humility. It is paramount. If ever you puff up your chest and say, I know, then you will not know the next thing. The first ingredient of any search, and if you want to join me in that, is to be humble. What do you mean by humble? It's the smallness you feel when standing before the vastness, grandeur, and majesty of truth. We are not even describing what truth, but everybody knows that truth with a capital T is really awesome and great out there. And if you have to stand in front of truth, then you are so small. You are not big. So let's square our shoulders and lift our chins up and say we know it all. Humility is the number 1 ingredient. Sometimes we do feel humility also when we look at others around us who have a wealth of knowledge. We should become humble. Then our mind is mellowed enough so that when information comes, we are able to accept it as an inquirer. Number 2 is honesty. You know, in my 20 years of search, when I was going through this period, talked to a lot of people. Honesty is a scarce commodity, especially when it comes to religious views. Oh, the way they will say it. Do you know this? Of course. What does it say? Well, I'll tell you. I'll tell you. And in a little while, the words are not all that confident. And then when the evening comes along, when nobody else is listening, if you sit down quietly and say, hey, do you really know? And then they will say, actually, I don't. Then why did you start off so big? Honesty is a scarce commodity. It is widespread. And don't think only they are dishonest. All of us are. I was also when I started out. And I said, hey, that's the way I made all the claims. And so because it's so widespread, so deeply embedded in us, I had to give it a definition, my own definition, and I had to apply that definition rigorously. And here's the definition of honesty. The willingness to give credit to a point or an argument, no matter who brings it up, even if that acknowledgement might destroy my previous standing. Are you ready to be honest? Yeah. I call it the wow factor. We should be ready to say, wow, if something is impressive. And not first think, shall I say wow or not? Because if I do, then it will destroy what I was holding on to all this while. No. Honesty requires that if there is a piece of information that comes at you, sweeping, strong, and big, then we stand there and say, wow. No matter who gets the credit. Are you with me? Okay. No matter who gets the credit. Wow factor. There will be some wows because, during a search of this extended period, there are many things that I came across that I had to just stand and say, wow. Because I didn't know it was there all along. So when I do it, go ahead and say, wow. Go ahead and say, yeah, pretty good. Or if it's not all that impressive, say, I don't think so. Or if you disagree, no, not with me. Anything as long as you have a response, then you and I are on the same page as inquirers. We are allowed to disagree, but be honest in your disagreement. The third one is calmness. Way back in 1879, Thomas Alva Edison, anybody familiar with that name? He invented the electric bulb. Do you know how many experiments he tried before he got that bulb to burn and brightly? Over 1,028 experiments. One of the problems that he had was trying to balance heat and light in that delicate filament inside the bulb. It would burn, and as it glowed, it would get too hot, and the contact points would break. Or it wouldn't even glow at all. That was his challenge. How would he balance heat and light inside that filament? Do you know religious discussions are exactly the same? It can get so dull and boring that the speaker himself is falling half asleep on his own sentences. Or it can get so bitter and vitriolic, you pull your shoulders this way, I won't talk with you again. Not only I won't talk with you, I'll pull out my guns and my bombs and my rockets. Right? Just go to the Middle East today. It's there. The reason is religious ideas somehow embed themselves pretty deep into our emotions and our hearts. And we do not like it being tugged at all. It hurts. And so you respond and react. And it causes a great deal of emotions. And so we need calmness. The willingness to keep my volatile emotions in check because I have chosen to be humble and honest. In my humility, I acknowledge I don't know enough. And in my honesty, I state that. And when I say that I don't know, but I'd like to know, then I can remain calm. I don't have to fight for my own views at all. I will just remain calm enough to accept it. Because if we are not calm, then reason and judgment will fly out the window with your emotions. They'll be pushed out. And once reason and judgment are gone, your conclusions will be anything but fair and just. We've got three: humility, humbleness, honesty, and you're going to remain calm. Why do we want to remain calm? Like I said, the emotional content of religious ideas run very deep. And our natural inclination is to fight for what we believe. It is natural and it's okay, but not during a search. Not when you are an inquirer. Number 4, respect. Respect is used many times to denote agreement, but respect is not agreement. In fact, respect shines out even brighter when there is disagreement, and you still respect the person. Respect also sometimes is synonymous with admiration, but respect is not necessarily admiration. So it's neither agreement by itself nor admiration. It is simply this: allowing for the other whatever rights we feel is our due. I want to do a search in a certain way, and I should allow anybody else to do a search in their own way. And I would expect, in return, that you give me the same respect. Respect will never allow us to look down our noses at so-and-so and call them insulting names and hurl some insinuation, slip in some damaging insinuations just to knock them off, or be condescendingly pitiful. No. Respect will allow them the same rights that you wanted for yourself. So these 4: humility, honesty, calmness, and respect. If we have all these 4, I believe we have paved our road with an atmosphere that will take us the distance. But how shall we apply it practically to our meeting and our search? I see you are quite comfortably seated, so I will not ask you to stand up. Usually in the seminars that I present, I ask them, the attendees, to stand up and take some deep breaths. So while you're seated itself, let's take some deep breaths. We need some oxygen going up to our brains. It's the 2-2-4 principle. Take a breath for 2 counts, hold it for 2 counts, and then let it go for 4 counts. Ready? Take a deep breath. 1, 2, hold it. 1, 2, let go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Once again. Take a deep breath. 1, 2, hold. 1, 2, let go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now just pretend you're standing, because that's the ritual that I usually take you through. I'm not going to ask you to stand, so you're okay. But the reason I asked them to stand and take a deep breath is because now we're going to do another little ritual to help us with these 4. And the ritual is this. Draw an imaginary circle around your feet. Done? All right, simple. And now just take your feet out of that circle. All right, now let's ask ourselves what the circle was. The circle is all the philosophies, doctrines, and religion that you now hold. So what you really did was step out of them and join me as a person on the street. No loyalty to any religion, doctrine, or philosophy. Once you go out to the street and become just an ordinary person there, then you are free to inquire. You are free to go any direction that the evidence points to. Are you with me? So you've joined me now on the street. You are not a Hindu, you're not a Muslim, you're not a Buddhist, you're not a Christian, you're not a nobody. Just an ordinary person like me on the street, and from that point we're going to ask the questions that we started out already. We have the first question already. Is there a God or is there not a God in existence? And so let's get on with the question now. We are all inquirers. The great divide, that's what I called it. One side is A, God is non-existent, fictitious. B, God is relevant, factual. Why is the debate going on and on for century after century? I really don't know, but there could be a reason, and I think this is what it is, because of the way we structure the debate. And here is how we normally do it. We take sides first, and then pile up an argument upon an argument for us, for my side, and then point to the other side and knock down their arguments. So there are 2 columns of argument, mine and yours. But that's because we took a position beforehand. A person who is an inquirer doesn't take a position. He stands back and looks at both of them. And if you do both, then you will have to have 4 columns of argument. You take A and have an argument for A and an argument against A, pro and con. And then you take B and have an argument for B and an argument against B, pros and cons. And an inquirer, when he is faced with 2 options, has 4 lines of argument, whereas normally we just jump into it with 2. And when you have 2, you will not make much headway for the simple reason that there is enough of evidence for both of them, and there are enough of gaps to show that they are not relevant enough. Whereas if you do this, and I call it the pan process, pan meaning going across boundaries. Pan also stands for a process of sifting, trying to differentiate between common sand and the gold. Panning for gold? Yes. The third is Pan, my family name. Pandit, P-A-N, is the first 3 letters of my name. It's a pan process. And I did that for the simple reason that I was on an inquiry mode. It'll keep you there following the pan process. And here it is.